If you're someone who chooses to participate in linear time, you've probably noticed that it's 2024, a full decade since 2014.
It's been
10 years.
And since 10 years have passed, a lot of us have started to feel nostalgic for 2K14. So to celebrate, we're putting on our thickest rose-tinted spectacles and taking a look back at what life was like online back in 2014. Why don't you take my hand and come on this journey with me? And this video is 3D. Put on your Apple Vision and reach out and grab this. It's like a toddler. January 2014. We'll start with January and we'll go month by month. Now, before E-Girls and Bella Porch, there was Boxy.
My name is Boxy.
Hi, my name is Boxy. The original person who did exaggerated anime facial movements and inspired enough criminal horniness to power a small country. Now, as of 2024, they're still making videos under her real name, but she posted her last video under the name Boxy in 2014. Truly the end of an era. So, hi. My name is Boxy. Also in January 2014, as well as sipping tea like Kermit, the meme that was taking the world by storm at the time, we were also marveling at Pharrell Williams, just kind of in general. Look at his large hat. Listen to his annoying song about being happy. Have you seen how big his hat is? That's how simple social media was back then. If you just had a large hat, it's not even that large, but if you just had a slightly larger hat than normal, people were like, damn. BuzzFeed has to write about this.
Gotta figure out how to make money on this thing. It's simply too good.
What's he got under that hat? Secrets. February 2014. I had my birthday, the 5th of February, feel free to send me cash, and Susan Wojcicki became the YouTube CEO. I'm sure no one will become insanely mad about that. I'm sure no one will lose their mind about that. But look, like it or lump it, this started a brand new era for YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, this is what it looked like back then. Oh, a simpler time. Also in February, the whole world had Macklemore fever, which sadly at the time had no cure and was fatal. Things got so crazy with Macklemore that when he won a Grammy over the hotly favored Kendrick Lamar, he felt so bad about it that he texted Kendrick a full apology and then posted a screenshot of his apology text on Instagram. That's very sorry. That's like a man trying to win back his wife sorry. Meanwhile, in March 2014, Ellen, remember Ellen? Ellen decided to see how many cancelled people she could fit into one selfie, and she did a pretty good job. Look, Kevin Spacey, Jared Leto, kinda.
Morbid time.
And she created what was, at the time, the biggest tweet in Twitter history. Of course, back then it was called Twitter, not X, which is of course what we all call it now. This was the pinnacle of selfie culture. Everyone was doing a selfie back in 2014. It was still a novelty instead of just like a thing you do that's not that interesting. Also around this time, Gwyneth Paltrow wrote an article about her divorce from Chris Martin from Coldplay and gave us the phrase conscious uncoupling, which I'm sure like me, you use every single day. And also in March, in a much sadder news story, a Malaysia Airlines plane disappeared, which birthed a million internet conspiracy theories continuing to this day. It's not that the internet did not have conspiracies and theories and speculation before that, but I think this incident is what really brought it into the mainstream. This started all the like podcasts and YouTube channels where people would be like, you know, doing ASMR where they talk about planes. And that brings us to April 2014. Musical.ly launched, which is really weird. Yeah, Musical.ly launched while Vine was still alive, and actually while Vine was thriving. But long before it evolved into TikTok, Musical.ly was a very strange little app where people basically did stuff like this, and this, and this. It has grown a little bit beyond that, I would say. May 2014. All right, if we may, let's look at May. Now look, we've all had a fight in an elevator with our billionaire brother-in-law in defense of our billionaire sister. But not all of us went on to make a really good album inspired by it, partly. But Beyonce did. She remembered the saying, when life gives you lemonade, release it. As an album. That's right, Solange and Jay-Z's elevator drama went big, and there was CCTV footage of them. Jay-Z came out and he acknowledged it was bad. He had a lyric where he said, you egged Solange on, knowing all along all you had to do was say you was wrong. So there we go. It sounds even more lyrical coming out of me.
that was the most low effort low I've ever heard.
That was J-A, you know. And that brings us awkwardly to June 2014. Now words, we all use them, sometimes as much as every day. And 2014 gave us a plethora of new words, including man-spreading, which is a word people still use every day, and on fleek, a word no one ever uses and barely used at the time.
Abraz on fleek, the
Well, also, interestingly, the Oxford Dictionary Word of the Year in 2014, in a rather prescient fashion, was vape. They really nailed that one. That was a really good one. They've done some really terrible ones in recent years, but vape was on the money. But when people weren't reading their dictionaries and laughing their heads off, ha ha ha, we love words, they were busy thirsting over Jeremy Meeks, also known as the Hot Felon, a man who proved that crime does pay as long as you're very good looking. Finally, a victory for pretty people. Yes, Meeks had a previous criminal history, and then in 2014 he was swept up in a police operation that was targeting people that were thought to be in gangs. His mugshot got published on the internet and very quickly became something of a sensation, with people saying stuff like, I like how he looks, I like looking at his face, and now he has a whole successful modeling career and he's a celebrity, all because of his face. So well done to his face. And now we come to July 2014, where people started tipping buckets of ice water over themselves. And this wasn't just to cool off in the summer months. This was also to raise money and awareness for ALS. Apparently they raised $220 million worldwide for ALS, which is amazing, although I don't really know how, because I think a lot of people just did the challenge because they thought it'd be fun. I don't know where the money came from, but apparently they did it, and that's great.
Ah, that's hot.
But, you know, it was a genuine sensation in a way we don't really get anymore. You don't really get a full viral thing that everyone's obsessed with at the same time anymore. Things tend to last for about like an hour, and then we all move on.
COVID.
Yeah, COVID was something of a viral sensation. It was certainly viral. Now we come to August, and a little game called Five Nights at Freddy's came along, kind of blew up the world. And listen, God works hard, but Scott Cawthon works harder. He released Five Nights at Freddy's 2 in the same year, 2014. I mean, it was kind of a very similar game, but you know, 2 games in 1 year, pretty big. This was also the era of peak Vine. In August, we had the Apparently Kid.
Apparently, I've never been on live television before.
And we also just had bangers coming out day after day in 2014. We had A Potato Flew Around the Room.
A potato flew around my room before you came.
We have the original Yeet! But soon, August slipped away like a moment in time, and it was September 2014. And in September 2014, the band U2 made a decision that would come to haunt them in the decade that followed. They had the idea, a nice idea, that they would release their new album, Songs of Innocence, for free. For free? To anyone who had an iTunes account. But then they decided that's not generous enough. Not only are we going to give everyone this album for free, we are going to place it in their phone or iPod instantaneously, whether they want it or not. And then just millions of people started complaining that they got an album for free. And look, I like that album. I'm the one guy who thinks that's a pretty good album. It's honestly one of U2's better albums, and I think the way people complain about that is nuts. People are like, my precious phone. You can just delete it. It's a free album. They should have just put it on the store for free. It is kind of insane to force it into people's phones. But people talk about that now, like Bono came around to their house and punched their grandma. People are way over dramatic about that album. October 2014, and Taylor Swift, I've heard of her, she released an album called 1989. My name is Taylor, and I was born in 1989! And in doing so, she kind of entered the start of her truly imperial era, just absolute Taylor dominance. It was also the start of her famous beef with Katy Perry, which I had heard a lot about, but I'd never bothered to dig into why they had beef. I thought there was something really intricate about this. It turns out it's because Katy apparently poached some dancers from Taylor's stadium tour. And that's the whole reason. But I'm not saying that's not a good reason, but I thought it was something so much more dramatic than that. For them to have this extended feud where they wrote songs about each other, and yeah, I think they're friends now or whatever, I mean, who cares? But it's kind of crazy that it was all just about dancers. Not that dancers don't matter. November 2014. And like all of 2014, this was the era of peak Ellen. It's actually insane to consider the fall off of Ellen DeGeneres. You know, perhaps deserved, but Ellen was like the ruler of the world in 2014. As Alex from Target found out. Now, Alex was a 16-year-old, he's called Alex Lee, working at a super Target. He'd only been working there for 3 months when a customer took a photo of him, creepy, and posted it on the internet. Weird! And then everyone saw this photo of a 16-year-old that was taken when he wasn't aware, and they said, that 16-year-old's hot. Odd! It's actually a really creepy story when you look back on it. I think it's really strange. And then he went on Ellen and he got interviewed, and Ellen was like, what's it like being hot? And he was like, I don't know, I'm a normal person. And then it actually apparently had a really sad ending, this story. This poor guy, he got insanely doxxed. His family got doxxed. His girlfriend got doxxed and bullied. People were awful to him. He now has no online presence. So just a lovely story all round. Let's stop doing that. But someone who did like photos being taken of them was Kim Kardashian, who decided to break the internet by placing a bottle of champagne upon her arse. And credit to her, it did break the internet. And break the internet, weirdly, is still a phrase. That's a really long-lasting phrase that has stuck around. Also around this time, I'm talking peak British YouTubers. Girl Online was the book everyone was talking about. Who wrote it? Was it written by a ghost? Everyone was wondering. Finally, we come to December 2014. The Tumblr aesthetic had ruled all year, but by the end of 2014, it was firmly in control. You had Super Hulock, and that is a phrase that is going to activate people watching this like a winter soldier. There's going to be people who have been woken from a dark slumber just at the sound of the word Super Hulock. You had King Kylie Jenner being iconic. You had Lucky Bluesmith, who I'll admit I had never heard of, but I did some research and that was some dominance Lucky Bluesmith had. People were like, Lucky should be Draco Malfoy. They were like, there's already been a Draco Malfoy for like 10 years, but okay. What's Lucky up to now? He's super Mormon now. Very traditional Mormon. You also at the time had 1975 dominating with that indie aesthetic. You had just people going, what if Charlie is so cool like? And Doctor Who kissed on the lips. Wouldn't that be the greatest thing that ever happened? And there'd be 17,000 re-notes of people going, I have to agree. And that brings us to the end of 2014, a really interesting and in many ways much more innocent time on the internet. You had a few things that have really lasted till now, stuff like break the internet, stuff like vaping obviously. You have a lot of stuff now that feels really quaint. Like if the host of the Oscars now did a big selfie with celebrities, no one would care. The only way you can get attention at the Oscars now is if one celebrity physically attacks another celebrity. Do you remember 2014? Do you have fond memories? Were you born after 2014? If so, you're probably too young for whatever platform this is. Go to bed, you got homework. But what was your favorite moment from 2014? What hits the nostalgia buttons the most? And of course, remember to follow Scroll Deep to keep up with all the latest, and in this case, oldest, internet nonsense. I've been Benedict Townsend. You've been Jonathan Dredgemeyer. And listen, 99% of the audience is going to be like, no. But when Jonathan Dredgemeyer watches this, some guy, he's going to be like, how did he know? Until next time, stay on fleek. Poor Ellen DeGeneres with that mountain of money after apparently being so mean to all those employees. Allow me to just play a little ditty here on this fiddle. Is the violin small, or is this a regular size violin and I am actually just giant and have always been enormous on this show? See, that way we'll get the fetish audience watching.